What if I told you that I'm starting to come around to the belief that maybe, just maybe, us baby boomers did really screw it up for Gen Z? I know it's hard to believe. I'm a baby boomer, born late in the stage, 62. And the more I hear Gen Z, the more I might start siding with what's going on in their world. It's hard to believe, but yeah, I'm empathetic. I did have the audacity to choose to be born in 1962, post-World War II. It's a different America, there's no doubt about that. But I'm going to share some stories about growing up in that time frame versus what's happening with the current generation that I'm talking about, the Gen Zs. I believe they're 97 to 2010, 2007, somewhere in that way. I know some, I work with some, I have experience. But here's the deal, right? When I was, actually this is a video that I put out that you can check out. The first home that my wife and I bought, we paid $144,000. 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, half-acre of land. That can't be done today. Gen Z has no opportunity to buy that type of house. And that's disturbing because it's not that long ago. We're not talking centuries ago that couples like my wife and I, newly married, could buy a nice home and raise a family. And I've seen all too often the challenges that Gen Z generation has. Not only are they shut out of the real estate market, they're also shut out of the rent market. But let me just share with you, so when I was in school, high school that is, I was the president of the 2-0 and Go Club. Just got right through. But it was just expected. It was expected of everyone to go to college. There was no discussion about it. It was go see the career counselor, and that person will share with you which college they believe you have a good chance to get in and excel. Well, again, because I was the president of the 2-0 and Go Club, I got one offer from a state school in Massachusetts that they'd let me into their school. And you know what the tuition was back in 1980? For the whole year, not room and board, but the whole year, it was $3,900 tuition. Room and board was probably another $2,900. So yeah, it is true. I could work part-time and still afford to pay for college. I took out a student loan, and my student loan payment was $54 a month. Think about that, $54 a month. And we've got kids now, as you well know, that are strangling with 6-figure debt. So I get it. I didn't do that, no. So it's hard to be blamed for something that I didn't do. I didn't purposely say when I was 17 or 18, hey, that generation is going to be back in the 21st century? I want them to be strangled with debt, and here's how I'm going to do it. So I'm getting a little upset with the continual boomers did this to us vibe, which I don't believe is true. But there are two people that were baby boomers that I think have a lot to do with the problems that we face today. One is Steve Jobs. The other one is, what's his face from Microsoft? Bill Gates. Right? I'm afraid to say this out loud, but I'm going to say it out loud. I blame those guys. And the reason I blame those guys is because now, if you are a Gen Z and you are facing almost critical decisions on whether or not you're going to eat or pay the rent, and then you use the boomer inventions of Apple and Microsoft. I'm not saying that they invented the internet, I'm just saying they have given you, Gen Z, the opportunity to get on TikTok or YouTube and tell the world about it. We didn't have that. So when we were struggling, you just didn't tell a lot of people about it. You just did it. And I'm not saying pull up your bootstraps and suck it up, buttercup, and all that stuff. We just didn't know any better. Right? I mean, the most complaining we could do is write to Dear Abby and want to know, how do I handle this situation? But now, everybody knows your problems, and I feel bad for you. I really do. Because getting on TikTok or YouTube and talking about your problems doesn't solve your problems. It just makes it worse. There's a whole culture on the internet right now, on social media, that a lot of Gen Zs just quit. They're going to stop trying, and that's heartbreaking. That is absolutely heartbreaking. You can't blame the boomers. Just stop doing that. But don't quit, okay? if you quit, what does that mean to the generations that come after you? Well, that's kind of a rhetorical question, because if you quit, there will be no generations coming in behind you, because you've made up your mind that you can't have a family because you can't afford. I get it. I get it. My grandparents had the audacity to be born in the 19th century. My father, one of 6 kids, was born 6 months after the 1929 stock market crash, and my dad blamed him for it. But guess what? They went on to have 5 more children. My mom was born in 1934, one of 7. See what I'm saying? Is that they didn't have a platform to tell everybody how bad they had it. And I'm challenging you right now, if you at all are interested in history, see how bad they had it back in the Great Depression. I mean, really do your research. Dig in. Don't just read the headlines. Find out how people were living. 25% unemployment. Men who were charged with winning the bread and feeding their families had to go to soup lines. I don't see a lot of soup lines right now, and I don't think we're going to see them. See, what we're doing is we're living in a pendulum, okay? Us baby boomers, we were born into a generation. Yes, we were blessed. We are blessed. We are not saying that that's not true. But we're also, you know, my wife and I talk about it all the time. I should have just went in and got a government job, got a pension, health care for life, everything would have been great. But I didn't do that. I became an entrepreneur. I tried starting 2 businesses. I did well until events completely out of my control happened. I shared with you before, I was an advisor, an investment advisor, started my own little firm. Then 2008 happened, wiped me out. Pulled myself up by my bootstraps because I had 2 kids to feed and a wife that wanted to be fed, and started another company completely outside of investment advisory, but it was a recruiting company for investment advisors. Did very well until 2020, if you remember what that was all about. So I've lost 2 businesses, but I am continually trying to make myself better. And I know that it's very hard to hear this from an old guy like me, but things are going to get better. They really are. Just don't quit. And I'm talking directly to the Gen Zers who like to get on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube and just complain about how bad things are, and they're just going to quit. They're going to step outside of society, and what the heck are you going to do with yourself? Seriously, what are you going to do with yourself? All right? So my advice is figure out how to take care of yourself. And I know living in a nice home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, raising a family is a dream that you may or may not realize in your lifetime. But there are other things that you can do. You are a generation that adapts. I know that for sure. All the things I grew up believing were the American way, which is a 9-to-5 corporate job, get your retirement account, fade off into the sunset. Those don't exist anymore. They do not exist anymore. Here I am, 62 years old. I'm collecting Social Security and delivering pizza. I'm not bragging about it, I'm just saying. If I can do it, you can do it, is the old saying, and I want you to do that. I want you to stop telling the world how bad it is and go out and make it happen for yourself. I'll give you a perfect example. There are a few people that work in the store that I work at that are typical Gen Zers. They're on their phone the whole time. They're whining about this, they're whining about that. However, in the same building, in the same store, there are other Gen Zers who are working. They're not on their phones. They're taking care of customers. They never call out sick. They show up when they're supposed to show up. What's the difference? They're of the same age group. They're of the same generation. It's the mindset. The mindset is, I'm not going to believe all that I'm consuming in social media, that life is so bad that I'm just going to quit. They're saying, I have an opportunity and I'm going to make the best of it. And let's not kid each other. They're looking around saying, here's my competition. These people don't want to work. They complain about things. They don't come to work when they're supposed to. That's the competition I'm going to have, so that when the time is right and I'm able to buy a house, or I'm able to upgrade my career, or I'm able to do whatever it is that I want to do, the competition for those slots is very, very slim. The competition for those slots when I was growing up, it was dog eat dog. And I'm just telling you the way it is. Everybody wanted the same thing and everybody worked to get it. So if you are of the mindset that you want something concrete in your life, something good to happen, go make it happen. Get off of YouTube. Get off of YouTube Shorts. Get off of TikTok and Facebook and all of these things where you're continually ingesting the bad attitudes of people that are really calling out your generation. It's not that bad, guys. All right, I know whether or not you even stay to the end, but if you like this content, this was a diatribe. Nobody will ever see it. But if you do like it, give me a like, give me a comment, and certainly subscribe. This is Popsy Guy signing off down at the boat ramp. It's pretty windy. But as I said, I'm a blessed baby boomer and I'm enjoying life. And I want you to do the same. Have a good day.